Welcome
Give it 2
to
seconds
a
and then hit it.
special edition of Liberty Blue. We scream about the Rangers so that you don't have to, etc., etc. We are reacting live to all of the news and notes of free agency as Nick is somewhere in the middle of a forest, I think. I don't know.
Nah, I'm in a backyard.
I mean, you might as well be given the trees in the background. But you know what? We were a little bit late because Twitter decided to completely crash on the day of NHL Free Agency. But also, we have breaking news: Blake Wheeler just signed a 1-year deal with the Rangers.
Yeah, 800 base, 300 in bonuses. Money-wise, it's fine. It's just like we talked about on the show this past week. He doesn't address any of the Rangers' actual needs. Like, sure, he's a big physical body, and I'm sure Drury very happy to get a tall American guy yet again. But the Rangers lost to the Devils because they were too slow on pucks and couldn't exit the zone. Blake Wheeler, I don't know if anybody's watched the Jets recently, and I know I've seen a lot of people warming up to the idea of Blake Wheeler based on the idea of his counting stats. As somebody who watched a lot of the Jets this year, he was only effective because he was playing with guys who could move the puck for him. When he gets into the zone and is only responsible for, passing or shooting, okay, that's great. But as the Rangers as a team struggle systemically with just, basic transition play, adding another guy who can't make plays on his own in transition, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Again, it's like we talked about with Patrick Kane. It's buying the name and not really caring about the fit.
This is becoming a habit with Chris Drury. This is becoming a trend where Chris Drury will see a name, think about what they did 10 years ago, and think to himself, I got to get this guy. But this man was stripped of his captaincy. Paul Maurice literally quit his job in Winnipeg because he couldn't handle the rancid vibes in the locker room, and which Blake Wheeler was supposedly the captain of. So that's that's great. He also can't skate. He can't skate. He can't defend. I feel like I'm talking about Patrick Kane all over again. It's like this man he's not the same person that he was. It's not the same player that he was a decade ago. He's old, he's slow, and he exacerbates the issue that the Rangers have had for years now. They don't have a speedy play driving forward that can really shore up this offense. He is another complimentary, you do everything and I'll score the goal kind of player, which the Rangers have 30,000 of. They need a player that can actually drive the offense, and they don't do any. They didn't solve the issue. And Chris Drury, once again, it's becoming a massive problem with me versus our guy Christopher, where he, instead of fixing issues that the Rangers have had, makes it worse.
And look, it's not a ton of money. And I know that's going to be the common rebuttal. Why are you so mad? They're tying up like a 1.1 million in a guy who's, had 55 points last season. Again, he doesn't help what the Rangers struggle with. They already have enough guys who are decent in the offensive zone. They need more guys who can facilitate going from defense to offense quickly. And, we're going on the idea that, hey, maybe he's and that'll be the selling point in the puff pieces you'll read about how this came together. Well, the Rangers feel like they needed more leadership. This is somebody who's a former captain. This is somebody Jacob Trouba cited as he learned what it meant to be a leader from Blake Wheeler. That's great and all, but as the last 2 seasons in Winnipeg will show you, his leadership was not worth a whole heck of a lot. When you start trying to value these intangible things that aren't quantifiable, to me, it's an example of people who are in that in-group, that the people at the top of that power structure, looking to use their whatever means possible to keep other people out and saying, well, you don't see it. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not in the room. Well, I might not be in the room, but I can put together, hey, the team's vibes are atrocious. Everybody plays worse when the vibes are bad. Maybe bringing somebody from a group that wasn't very good and had intangibles groups questions to a group that's already been kind of getting a reputation as being difficult or maybe emotionally and psychologically fragile. I feel like you're ignoring what the issue at hand is. And we've been saying this for a year now. We've been doing the show more than a year. And the additions the team has made, since Drury took the job, the additions that he has made they haven't addressed the root issues of the Rangers' problems. They added a bunch of big physical guys. They got 3 of the 4 guys from that first offseason out of here, and he couldn't find any takers for Barclay Goodrow because that contract is atrocious, and he didn't want to give away a mid-round pick.
I hate to interrupt you, but we also have more breaking news. So the Rangers officially make the Jonathan Quick signing official. It is 1 year, $825,000, and some bonuses. They also, allegedly, according to Renaud Lavoie, the Rangers have also signed Alex Belzile, that was formerly a forward for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, looking at Jay Fresh's page of Alex Belzile, looks like he's really good defensively. He's kind of like that bottom 6.
A low event guy, that's fine.
Penalty killer. Yeah, I mean,
they needed that type of body. They needed to bring in at least 2 of those guys. They did.
Yeah, like Alex Belzile, for what he is, he's at the very least, it seems to be, and I'm basing this, a lot off of Jay Fresh's page, because let me tell you something, I haven't really watched a whole lot of Montreal Canadiens games this season because they've been a dumpster fire, and that's really a whole lot of fun to watch. But based off of the analytics, it looks as if he can hold his own defensively, and that's what the bottom 6 really needs. But maybe a Tyler Mott replacement, I don't know what they do with that. But there's definitely there's worse options out there. I mean, the thing about Blake Wheeler, I'm looking at my timeline right now, and I'm seeing a lot of this is a bargain. This is a bargain. He's getting no money. Like it's a really cheap contract. The Rangers are doing well here, et cetera, et cetera. But man, he can't skate.
Again, they don't care. Nobody cares, Andrew. That's the problem. They care about the name and they see the counting stats. Nobody watches the games. For all of the people we get in our replies telling us, well, if you guys watched the games and got off of the internet, I watched a lot of the Winnipeg Jets last year. I like Nikolai Ehlers. I like Kyle Connor. I like Josh Morrissey. I like Connor Hellebuck. I watch a lot of the Jets. I own a Mark Scheifele jersey. I watched a lot of Blake Wheeler the last couple of years. He's fine in the offensive zone. Every other part of his game is a problem, and that's the Rangers' issue. They have enough guys who are competent in the zone. He's not great defensively because he has no foot speed, and he can't go from defense to offense quickly because he has no foot speed. It's great that they got him for cheap. I'm sure he's going to be fine. But this gets them no closer to winning a Stanley Cup. That's the thing. When the GM says the standard is we need to be winning championships, that's why we're firing the coach. That's why we're burning all these draft picks. You actually have to make moves that get you closer to winning a championship. Otherwise, you're doing. You know what you're doing? What the Rangers have been doing? You know how when you point a laser pointer at the wall and a cat jumps at it? That's what the GM's been doing with names. Bringing in Patrick Kane, bringing in Blake Wheeler, Jonathan Quick. It doesn't matter that it's just a dot on the wall, but it's distracting everyone. Oh, we got Blake Wheeler. He's cheap. Oh, we got Patrick Kane. We had to do some salary shenanigans, but Patrick Kane's here. We got Jonathan Quick. He won 3 Stanley Cups. And real quick on Jonathan Quick, .875 save percentage, 51st in goals saved above expected last year. He's had hip surgery. He's had wrist surgery. If they get anything above .890 out of him, that's a good season from him. I expect nothing from Jonathan Quick next year.
It's again just one of these signings that is, hey, we have this name that did really good things a decade ago. So how bad could it be? And add this to the list of the names that Christopher has done this with. He's not going off of what they can do for me now. He's doing this based off, this is a guy that's won things, during the Vietnam War era, so why can't he do it now? It's like, nah, bro, like that's not how reality works. Yeah. This is not NHL 23 when these things, where these things don't get accounted for. You have to look at the whole body of work. You can't just be like, oh, well, he won cups, a decade ago. He beat the Rangers 10 years ago, so he can do that now. It's like, no, dude, that's not how sports works. You can't just look at somebody and see what they did yesteryear and just assume that they can do it now. That's not how reality works. He's doing it. He did it with Kane. To a certain extent, he did it with Tarasenko. Tarasenko still has a lot left in the tank. That's a lot more arguable. But he's doing it with Wheeler. He's doing it with Quick, and it's just like, dude, can you not look to the future for like a second and be like, yo, this 28-year-old insert name here actually has skating ability. I can actually do things for this team. Maybe let's sign him instead of a late 30-year-old who had glory days. That I forget the name of the character in Cars with who had all those championships in the closet from a million years ago.
Doc Hudson, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. you're signing somebody based off of what they did, as opposed to somebody that they can actually tangibly win you games and potential titles now. And this is another confusing day for me as somebody that likes this team. It's like, I don't care what they did before. I don't care. I want to know what they can do for me now.
So I want to get this point in, because this is the counterpoint. The GM has backed himself into this corner where he has to do these over 35 contracts because he is over leveraged the way they've spent their money. And some of it's not his fault. Like we've discussed, the Rangers books were not in horrendous shape when Drury got this job, but he entirely handicapped his financial flexibility after last offseason. When he brought in Trocheck, he effectively said, this is our group. And whatever we get out of this group is what we're going to get, and that's the best we can do. And it's why they're having to sign these over 35 guys to these over 35 contracts. Like we said, the value-wise, it's not atrocious. These are decent, at least in regards to Blake Wheeler. He isn't a useless player. This isn't the same case as bringing in Sammy Blais or Ryan Reaves. Blake Wheeler will have moments. He will have flashes of like, oh, there's the Blake Wheeler I remember. Oh, this is better than having Barclay Goodrow play second line right wing. But it's not going to effectively change the problem at hand. And sure, maybe your account at the Rangers calculus is saying that Laviolette's going to get them playing a strong systemic style of hockey where everybody knows what they need to do. And that'll make up for a lot of these issues we perceive in the skills. And that's fair, because we said before the playoffs started, this is a very redundant skill set team. They have a lot of guys who do the same thing. The only guy who likes to shoot the puck is Tarasenko. That's probably going to end up being an issue. Now we're saying, okay, we're going to assume our top six is Trocheck, Panarin, Blake Wheeler, Zibanejad, Kreider, Kakko. Okay, that's objectively better than what the top six was on opening night last year. If you think Blake Wheeler still has something left in the tank, which in a supporting role, maybe. If they play him with Kreider and Zibanejad, I don't know if that's going to work because he's not really a rush offense-based player. And he did have some success playing with Nikolai transition players in the entire sport. Maybe there's an argument for playing him with Kreider, but if you play him with Panarin, is he going to be able to shoot the puck? Because we know that's been an issue. Whoever plays with Panarin always ends up being the one responsible with shooting because Panarin refuses to shoot. So again, these moves on a one-dimensional plane, they're not awful. I understand what they're doing and why they have to do them. They are in a real crunch now. They still need to figure out what they're going to do with Miller and Lafreniere. That's the priority. I'm glad, based on what we've read this morning, that they're not going to trade Lafreniere for pennies, which that was kind of my real concern for this offseason, was they were going to trade him for a gritty bottom six guy just to get rid of it, because we know Drury's impulsive when it comes to trades, and if he doesn't like a guy, he'll take whatever he can get to get rid of him, i.e. Pavel Buchnevich. So that's really where I'm at right now. I don't think these moves are moving the needle. And I tweeted it this morning when Twitter was still kind of jacked up, but you can't win the Stanley Cup on July 1st. You can certainly lose the Stanley Cup on July 1st. And we have seen the Rangers repeatedly burn themselves out on this day, going after guys, not worried about the fit, not worried about the money, saying, well, if we win right now, it doesn't matter what happens after the first year or the second year, or this guy's good, no matter what, we can trade him. And really quickly, you can get to the root of the argument. The root of a lot of these arguments are based on this idea that the team is infallible, that they have the institutional knowledge, that they have proprietary information that the rest of us don't have access to, and that they're smarter than us. And my counterpoint to that would be, look at what happened yesterday. Libor Hayek was non-tendered after getting a million opportunities to stick because the organization didn't want to eat shit on the Ryan McDonagh trade. If you want to tell me the Rangers are no more than the rest of us, I can accept that on a baseline level. But the organization treats us like we're stupid, genuinely. Like, the general manager doesn't speak at the draft, the easiest day of the year, where all you have to do is say, yeah, we like this guy. We think he can be this. We're excited he's going to join the team. That you can't be bothered to go and talk to the press who aren't going to ask you one difficult question. The team treats us like we're stupid. That's my biggest gripe with a lot of this stuff. They think we don't know anything, and they expect us to just pay $130 to sit with Sting in the rafters in a January against the Red Wings. And if we complain about it, we're not real fans. That's the root of all of this to me, is the people who are okay with whatever the GM does is, well, you're not a real fan. Well, no, I would like to win a Stanley Cup before the sun burns us alive. That's my goal here. I don't know if you've seen what the weather's been like the last few days, Andrew, and what the air quality's been like. I'm trying to win a Stanley Cup while we still have ice on this planet.
Yeah, like listen, I totally agree with you, man. Like the people that are perpetually optimistic are I don't know. I to a certain extent I'm kind of jealous of them
Oh, I am
because
too.
like it's they don't see what we see in terms of, they see all the good, but they either don't see the bad or they
Or they
just
don't care.
or they pretend to not, or like they pretend not to care about it. So all they do is they think about, oh, like whatever, I'll support this team no matter what. Everything they do is great and everything is fine, and eat Arby's. It's like, dude, you gotta look at things objectively, and that's the whole point of the podcast. That's what that like from day one, the whole objective of this show is to be the objective voice in the room when everybody else is either everything is peachy or everything is terrible. Like there has to be some kind of in between, and this is what we try to provide. Like we provide the objective facts here. And the objective fact is that, okay, Blake Wheeler is great at counting stats.
He's fine.
He's fine,
but
but like again, and Molly Walker tweeted out that the Rangers hope that Jonathan Quick can be a mentor to Igor Shesterkin, and I mean by
Igor's
sure.
already better than Jonathan Quick ever was.
Listen,
Jonathan Quick was never the best goalie in the league.
Yeah,
he was never the best goalie in the league, and Igor's already proven he's one of, if not the best goalie in the league. That's more of the narrative PR BS that they feed us and expect us to just take unquestioned. And like we said, Wheeler, the money's not terrible. It's not a multi-year deal. Worst case, they punch a couple $100,000 over into next year when the salary cap goes up. It's not atrocious. But the main reason Andrew and I are frustrated is he does not meaningfully address the team's weaknesses. That's the point here. He's still got decent hockey in him, but he does not tangibly change the team. This is not somebody who makes his teammates better. This is somebody who is line mate dependent. And the Rangers have done this already. They have tried the older line mate dependent guy with this group. And all we're doing is just making Panarin, Trocheck, Kreider, Zibanejad a year older. That's it.
They're just not addressing the root issue.
Yep.
They are putting up window dressing and change, like they're essentially, they changed the summer clothing line to the fall clothing line. That's all they've done. They haven't,
fall clothing's more expensive.
There's a massive hole in the glass that they are not addressing. But instead of, fixing it, they have changed the clothes that the mannequins are wearing. Like that's all they're doing. Like the Rangers are a slow team that cannot drive 5-on-5 offense. This has been a problem for the Rangers for a multitude of seasons now. And instead of addressing that issue, they have gone and they have acquired another slow player who doesn't drive offense and a backup goaltender who cannot play hockey anymore. So this is what the team is. They have doubled down on we're going to be the slowest team in existence, and here we are. And I think it was Vince yesterday who was like, I'm just thinking out loud, but what about a reunion with Stepan and Brassard and Mark Stahl? And then I quote tweeted, and I was like, yeah, you might as well just get Yager so that the team could literally be the slowest team in existence. Like, if you want to do that, by all means. But that, again, like, it doesn't fix the problem. No. All you're doing is making it look pretty.
That's all the Rangers want to do is make it look pretty. And this is something I've been arguing with myself a lot lately is, do the Rangers actually think they're Stanley Cup contenders, or do they have to say that as part of the messaging for like, hey, we could win the Stanley Cup this year. All we got to do is get in. And that's part of the pitch. And because I deal with this a lot when I'm talking about the Flames, where the Flames swear they're cup contenders, even though they're always like the 7 or the 8 seed in the West. And to some extent, I'm starting to think that the Rangers part of their messaging is like, all we got to do is get in. We got the best goalie in the world. And if our power play gets hot for a few weeks, that's all we need. Because that's what they did all of last season. Well, why haven't you guys been able to string together a good stretch of games here? Well, it just matters we get into the playoffs. Once we get in, anything can happen. And they spent the entire season waiting around for their form to get better. It never did. We got confirmation that they did not practice hard or well and practice for about 20 minutes at a time and wondered why the entire season they looked awful in transition and all of the things you look for in a good hockey team. And real quick, we won't deliberate too long on this. This is basically all we expect from the Rangers. If they were going to do a Gaudreau move, they would have did it already, because that was really the only way they can make enough flexibility to go.
We have more breaking news. Tyler Pitlick has also agreed to a 1-year deal with the Rangers. So
that's just a warm body. That's a warm body. if that guy makes the opening night roster, that means one of the kids stunk because that guy's fine. That guy's a 13th forward.
Sure.
He's a body. It's not the end of the world again, but they can't add anybody meaningful. And we said this was the biggest argument last summer when I did the podcast episode from the Jersey Shore where it was audio only. With the week after they signed Trocheck, and I said, "This is the roster. You will not be able to make any meaningful changes without taking guys out." And they have said, okay, we don't want to take any guys out. We're just going to add small auxiliary pieces. We're going to try and get to the trade deadline. And if we're in the mix, we can do salary shenanigans where we can have teams retain salary and we can add maybe one more guy. But effectively, I have really little confidence in this group based on what happened against the Devils because, granted, the Devils still need a goalie. But that's what we said going into that series, and the Rangers couldn't figure out Akira Schmidt, who had all the 30 NHL games going into that series. So, you can say, hey, I think that last year was kind of worst-case scenario. Okay. But what's the best-case scenario for this group? You win 2 rounds, you get to a conference final against I don't even know who's good in the East. The East is kind of fraudulent, so I can understand why some people might be like, hey, all they got to do is get in. Because, the Bruins probably aren't bringing back Bergeron and Krejci. The Leafs added Ryan Reaves for some reason. The Penguins...
For 3 years, by the way. For
Penguins,
3 years.
The Penguins don't have a goalie under contract right now. The Capitals are old, and they just traded for Joel Edmondson. The Hurricanes are probably the best team in the East on paper, and they're probably going to trade Brett Pesce and take a step back. So maybe the Rangers are better than we think they are because everybody in the East got worse. Okay, if you want to make that argument, I'm okay with that. I understand where you're coming from. It's just if our goal is to win a Stanley Cup, we aren't more meaningfully close to that objective right now. And you can't win the Stanley Cup on July 1st. I understand. I agree with that. You can lose it. And these contracts aren't cost prohibitive. It's not the end of the world. But again, if we're saying our goal is to win a championship, we have to address our team's weaknesses. And the Rangers aren't addressing their weaknesses.
The thing about all these moves, and again, they're cheap. They're not long-term. They're not anything, that's going to break the bank. They miss the issue. They miss the problem at hand completely. But at least we can all take resolve in the fact that Brad Treliving is not the general manager of the Rangers. At least we can take resolve in that.
I do have something I want to say about this. Go finish.
All right. Real quick. Brad Treliving out here giving David Kampf 4 years, $2.5 million. Out here giving Ryan Reaves 3 years, $1.35 million to look scary on the bench and read the lineups before the games. At the very least, at least he's at the Rangers GM. At least we'll always have that.
So I think this is a real thing that when you get a general manager job, you genuinely have to do one of these tribute offerings, like when you join the mob and you have to give your boss your soul. You have to give a shitty contract to a guy that will make your boss happy. Brendan Shanahan probably felt the Leafs were soft and they got pushed around by the Panthers. So Brad said, if you hire me, I'll take care of that. Don't worry. And you have to throw the token contract at the bad player who's tough and scary because it makes your boss happy. And that's part of the issue the Rangers have is the general manager has to make his boss happy. So he has to go out and get the names that James Dolan might have actually heard of, or the players that Glenn Sather was wanted to get 10 years ago when he was still general manager of the team. That's part of this is the Rangers are kind of in this weird spot where because the general manager is also the president and he got the job by being the only person who was left standing when they fired everybody, he has a fealty to the people above him in the pecking order. We still don't know exactly how involved Glenn Sather is in all of this, but we know James Dolan still cares what Glenn Sather thinks, and we can safely assume that Glenn Sather played at least some part in the Patrick Kane stuff and some part in this Blake Wheeler and Jonathan Quick stuff, because this is Glenn Sather's MO. Go and get the starry name regardless of what the impact is going to be, because I don't watch the other teams. If I only watch my team, I don't have time to scout what Blake Wheeler's doing. I don't have time to scout what Jonathan Quick's doing. I look at the paper stats. I ask my pro scouting department, hey, can we do this? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to do it. And that's how you end up with the laundry list of bad contracts the Rangers have given out. And Wheeler and Quick are not bad contracts. These are one-year deals, less than $1 million each. I get that. But we are trying to win a cup here. Time is of the essence. Every minute you wait, your core is getting older and less effective. And I'm kind of at a loss. The Blake Wheeler stuff, he doesn't meaningfully change the team. And you might say, then why are you so mad if he doesn't meaningfully change the team? Because you had an opportunity to meaningfully change the team. You could have traded Gaudreau and created cap space and gotten a more toolsy middle six forward who has a little bit better micro stats, who's better at driving transition, or a defenseman who could actually move the puck. Like, I actually opened the Athletic. Connor Brown signed with the Oilers. I opened the Athletic yesterday and I went in the comment section of Arthur's column, and for the first time, I actually read like a multi-paragraph condemnation of Chris Drury. And I was like, wow, we're actually getting somewhere, that people are starting to realize that there isn't a coherent plan, that it's just running from fire to fire, throwing bodies in holes and hoping they fit. That's really all this is.
Again, it's not the money that's the issue. The 1 year, the less than $1 million, that's fine. Like, Christopher could have done a much worse job. He could have been like a 3-year. Like,
he could have traded for him.
He could have traded. Yeah, exactly. He could have traded for him. He could have given him a long-term deal. In terms of just the contract, the contracts are fine. I don't have an issue with the contracts. It is the players themselves that are the issue. Again, the Blake Wheeler will score will get his points, but do those points translate to the Rangers winning games?
Are they meaningful?
Right,
points? Do they carry weight?
Right, like if you score 7 goals in a 9-8 loss in which you were on the ice for all 8 goals against, are they really meaningful? The answer is no. Like, you have to be a positive force on the team for your offensive contributions to be meaningful. Yeah. You have to be, if you put up 100 points, but like Erik Karlsson, where he scored 1,000 points, but he was on the ice for every single goal against, essentially, that the San Jose Sharks gave up, and he was miserable defensively. I don't care that he scored 100 points, because the team didn't win based off of those 100 points. If he scored 100 points and the San Jose Sharks made the playoffs, now that's a whole different conversation. But like, he scored 1 million points, was so brutal defensively that it essentially got canceled out, and he won the Norris, which it's a whole different conversation for a whole different day. But it's just like Blake Wheeler can score goals and do all these things fine. But at the end of the day, the Rangers need speed, and they need 5-on-5 drivers. The Rangers today got neither of these things, and they don't have the space to really get anybody like that unless they trade Barclay Goodrow.
So I have a comparison for you I think you'll like as a basketball guy. You remember when Westbrook averaged a triple-double on the Wizards and they won 41 games, like 38 games? That's what these types of moves are. The counting stats look great. Like, it's great. It's great Erik Karlsson broke 100 points. You didn't have a chance of winning anything meaningful, which is the environment that allowed him to generate 100 points of offense. When Blake Wheeler's not responsible for defense, great. He can do whatever he wants. On a Jets team with Connor Hellebuck, on a Rangers team with Igor Shesterkin, he's going to be a passenger. He's going to ride shotgun opposite Kreider or Panarin. He won't have to carry the puck into the offensive zone a lot. He is not solving the Rangers' issues. And I think the Rangers are chalking a lot of what they assume they'll be better at this year just on the coach, that Laviolette is going to get them playing a strong, coherent style of hockey that's going to be able to make up for the talent deficiencies they have. And maybe that's the case. Maybe Peter Laviolette can kind of unlock something by playing less defense, like we talked about 2 weeks ago. If the Rangers can just play less defense as opposed to better defense, they'll get better offensive results and be better at 5-on-5. But you're chalking a lot on a coach's ability to get guys to change who they are. Blake Wheeler's 36 years old? He's not changing who he is.
He's going to be 37 before October.
Yeah, he's not changing who he is as a player. Panarin's not changing. Zibanejad, Kreider, Trocheck, those guys aren't changing who they are as players at this point. And you might have waited too long to try and change who Kakko, Lafreniere, K'Andre Miller, Braden Schneider, Filip Chytil are at this point. Like, That's really the only room for improvement the Rangers have, is that the kids unlock something that hasn't been there. And nothing about Peter Laviolette's track record tells me that he's just going to throw Kakko on that first line right wing like he probably should. That was the Rangers' best line for all season at 5-on-5 was Zibanejad, Kreider, and Gallant went away from it after November and never
We
went
have
back to
more
it for
breaking
more than a
news.
couple
Riley
shifts.
Nash to the Rangers on a 2-year deal.
Oh, they are just signing warm bodies. Like they're not even like looking at the contract. They're just holding up a finger to the guy's neck. Is his pulse? Does he have a pulse? We'll take him. Yeah, Riley Nash, another guy. He was at Tampa for a few years, with Carolina, with Columbus. He's been around. Again, if he's playing extensive minutes, that means one of the young guys they were counting on didn't make the team. Like they're banking a lot on Will Cooley, and I still don't think Brendan Othman is on the opening night roster. But again, it's early. There's time for the roster to come together. Maybe there's a trade that materializes somewhere down the road. Maybe they figure something out. But right now, I think the Rangers are probably the 4th or 5th best team in the East on paper, at least as of the moment. And that's an okay place to be on opening night. Like, you can't really judge who a team is on opening night because the roster takes so many permutations across an entire season. And there's going to be bumps. Anytime you start with a new coach, the bumps are bad. Everybody remembers how it took Gallant about 3 weeks to get the team going to decent record. David Quinn started out like 2-8. That first month of Alain Vigneault was horrendous in 2014. There is going to be bumps in this upcoming season, which is just, you got to account that as part of your calculus whenever you have a new coach. This isn't the end of the world, but I'm definitely disappointed that the GM again took the shiny toy as opposed to trying to improve the roster.
And I think for right now, the grade that I would give the Rangers is the fattest C that you can possibly imagine. It is aggressively mediocre. Why?
Yeah.
Because again, just to put a bow on this, the Rangers have a storefront. And in that storefront, there on one of the glass panes is a massive hole.
Yeah.
Somebody smashed the window, and instead of
was it Tom Wilson?
It might have been Tom Wilson. Somebody smashed the storefront window, and as opposed to getting a new pane of glass, instead of fixing the issue at hand, the Rangers have decided to ignore the hole in the glass and have just changed the clothes on the mannequins on that storefront from the summer to the fall, while leaving that massive hole in the glass there for anybody to kind of just come in and take whatever they want. That's what they've done. And
they keep wondering why there's no clothes on the
right, exactly. And then they come in the next day like, "Oh, where did the clothes go? Oh, yeah. I guess we got to put more on the mannequins. I don't know where they went. They just disappeared." They have been ignoring the issue at hand. Blake Wheeler, Jonathan Quick, the contracts are fine. We're not, super mad about the contracts. It's Blake Wheeler's cheap in 1 year. Jonathan Quick is cheap in 1 year. That's not the issue. The Rangers have desperately needed faster forwards and play driving forwards at 5-on-5. The Rangers got Blake Wheeler, who is slow, can't skate, can't defend, got stripped of his captaincy. Paul Maurice literally pretty much quit because of him. And Jonathan Quick, a guy who can't goalie anymore. So congrats. Blake Wheeler's counting stats are fine. Jonathan Quick as a mentor, if you want to convince yourself of that, whatever. But in practice, this is the same team that just got bombarded in the first round by a really fast team, and they couldn't match it. And here Chris Drury goes, "Let's do it again." And that's really the most infuriating part about this, is that again he's not going after guys that can help win now. He's going after guys that did things a decade ago and is just assuming that they can do it again now, which is not how reality works.
So the last point I want to get in before we wrap up here, I think it's very instructive that he didn't just buy out Barclay Goodrow or give a second-round pick to get rid of him. That tells me they think he's worth the 3.6 million that he's going to get paid for next year, which is objectively not true. Barclay Goodrow does not provide $3.6 million worth of value. And you will get the nonsensical argument from people, well, if the salary cap had gone up, you signed Barclay Goodrow knowing you were in a flat cap environment, knowing that it was only going to go up million and a half each year of that contract for at least 2 years. We knew the Players Association owed over $1 billion in escrow to the owners after the 56-game season. And Gaudreau got that contract for what he had done prior to getting here, and the Rangers paid an excessive price. And I don't want to hear anymore about intangibles and leadership when the team wilted the way it did against the Devils. You do not get to say, well, Barclay Gaudreau's a good leader. He's a blood and guts guy. It's great he blocks shots. That is not worth $3.6 million. I can get a garbage can from the front yard to block shots. You ever gone to the rink without a goalie? Yeah. You can get guys to block shots. Guys that block shots that don't have possession of the puck, you can find those guys anywhere. Paying that much for that is just telling me that you are not valuing useful skill sets. It's great he wins faceoffs. It's great he kills penalties. I swear to God, if they sign Luke Glendening for $800,000 just because he wins faceoffs, I do not give a fuck about faceoffs. How much did we talk about this? We talked about this a lot in January because there was a game against, I want to say it was the Devils. It might have been the Hurricanes, where there was a faceoff in the offensive zone, and Zibanejad won it clean back. But Carolina intercepted the clean faceoff win. So winning the faceoff in itself doesn't matter. It's getting possession after the faceoff that matters. So I don't care that Luke Glendening wins 54% of his faceoffs. I don't. It does not meaningfully matter unless you are having him play with guys who help clean up those loose pucks and are great at winning puck battles, which the Rangers are not. That is an issue. They do not have a well-structured team. That has been glaringly obvious for a season and a half now. 2 years ago, you might have been able to talk yourself into that group. That group was not beating the Avalanche. Like, even if they got by the Lightning, I don't think they were beating the Avalanche. They would have been a heavy underdog, and I'd be pretty confident in saying they would not have beaten that Avalanche team as good as Igor was playing then. This year against the Devils, they got ran out of the building. The Devils are a faster, more skilled team. The Rangers might have added a little bit more skill. Luke Glendening to Tampa. Okay, that's one less thing to worry about. Good. One less thing to worry about. Tampa, I think Tampa's kind of at this point. Tampa needs bodies. They got to fill out the bottom half of that roster. I was a little surprised they dumped Ross Colton for as little as they did, but it's whatever at this point. Anyone else you want to make fun of before we get out of here?
I mean, the Bruins just signed Lucic, so.
Well, that was a given because Don Sweeney's got to appeal to stupid people because them not winning the cup last year, they're done. Because if Bergeron and Krejci don't come back, it doesn't matter who's on the team next year because they're going to be bad. Yeah. It really doesn't matter. Like, maybe they can turn some guys into other stuff.
Okay, I want to make fun of Kevin Weeks for a second. We've done this, but
thanks,
Kevin. I want to do this for 30. We've done this for 38 minutes. I haven't said a word about the Cottage Boys yet. Kevin Weeks. He posted a GIF of Kermit the Frog drinking tea, and he just wrote the ... at ESPN, at NHL. What am I going to do with that?
He wants engagement. That's the thing I was talking about with one of my friends whose house I'm at right now is he goes, why are the NHL insiders so bad at their jobs? And I go, because they're not journalists anymore. They need to keep engaging. They need engagement on social media so that when their companies give them ads to tweet, that the ad buys, the people who buy the ads can say, oh, that's why he tags, I don't know, forget if Kevin Weeks is FanDuel or DraftKings, but whichever one he's sponsored by, that's why. So that, oh, I got this many eyes to go on my account, and I had this click rate on my account. I got this many guys to go to the ESPN hockey page. I got this many guys to go to the NHL draft page. It's why it's all so nonsensical, because these guys they're not playing journalists. They're playing telephone. They're playing Gossip Girl.
I don't care about your margaritas. I don't care about your cottages. Or your brand deals, or your fan duels, or your impressions. I just want NHL insiders to give me the news. I preferably preferably before the
Before the
teams
teams.
post it themselves. That's all I want the NHL insiders to do. Woj and Shams are out here breaking story after story after story. NBA accounts are saying nothing.
Andrew, Dame running from the grind.
I like
what's going on? Dame running from the grind.
There's just no loyalty in the NBA anymore. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, they are on top of things. I understand it's a different world. Like the NBA, I guess you could say leaks more. I don't know, is more open to talking to reporters and insiders and all these things. And the NHL is an old boys club. But like, man, how do you one get beat by the guy running the Twitter page or the girl or whoever it is? You know, I'm just saying
person.
like you know, how do you get beat by the person running the Twitter account of the team? And two, the Frank Saravalli tweet the other day that was that you know of the Edmonton Oilers Detroit Red Wings trade, that like the Oilers were like, yeah, we traded Klim Kostin and Kyle Yamamoto to the Red Wings for nothing. And then, like 5 minutes later, Saravalli was like, I think Klim Kostin's involved in this trade. It's like, dude, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? What's going on? Is this thing on? It's like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, you know, it took 38 minutes to get me going about these insiders, and now we're at the 41-minute mark. We spent the past 4 minutes talking about them, but like, man, dude, I just want the news, preferably before the team beats you to it, please.
All right. I don't think anybody of meaning. I mean, I think the most important move of the last few days is Duchesne. Duchesne as like your second line. I think Duchesne can be a second line center on a good team, but I don't think anybody who's good can afford to land him, which is kind of the issue right now. Like, there's not a lot of cap flexibility out there at the moment for a lot of these teams because they've given out such awful contracts on July 1st over the years. Like, how many times we bemoan the Oilers having no cap flexibility, and like 9 guys who just had a pulse, Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins. Nothing good happens on the first day of free agency. Gus Nyquist to Nashville. Why is Nashville spending money? What is the point of bringing in Gus Nyquist and O'Reilly to a team that's maybe a 7th or 8th seed? Like, I do not understand what we're doing here. I really don't understand what these GMs are doing in free agency. And then they'll complain, oh, I have no flexibility. I can't make any moves. You spent the money. Why are you telling me, it's hard to make moves, there's not a lot of cap space? Yeah, because you gave $4 million to a third-line right wing who scores 36 points a season. Why are you telling me your job is hard? You made your job hard. I hate these people with every fiber of my being. They are so incompetent. They cannot articulate thoughts, and then we wonder why we think we could do better. I'm not saying I could be an NHL GM. I'm saying I would be better than some of the people who have been NHL GMs. I think I 100% would have been better than Chuck Fletcher that last year in Philadelphia. I could have told him, hey, don't give Rasmus Ristolainen 5 years, $5 million per year. I could have done that. I could have told him, this is a bad idea. No one's going to take that contract. I could have told him, don't trade 2 picks for Tony DeAngelo and give him an extension. That's a bad idea. But these people, they know best. They know best.
Well, I forget who tweeted this initially, but the tweet that's like, just pay me $1 million to occasionally come into the office and say no. Yeah. Like, yeah, dude, please
give me $50,000 and I'll do that. Hey, Chris, don't do that.
Hey, hey, Christopher. Christopher. Please don't do silly things today.
Don't dress 15 skaters for 2 weeks to get one hipped Patrick Kane so he can go to Rangers fantasy camp. That's a bad idea.
I hate it here. I really do.
Ethan texted me before. He goes, does Drury think the Rangers are fantasy camp? Everybody just comes to New York, goes to Nobu 3 times a week, does coke in the bathroom, and hooks up with Instagram models. Is that
Dude,
why?
Okay. All right. Listen, Kevin Weeks is on a heater because let me tell you something. The news that Ryan O'Reilly was going to Nashville was broke like hours ago. Kevin Weeks, 23 seconds ago. Breaking news. I'm told Ryan O'Reilly is signing a multi-year deal with the Predators. Yeah, bro. I wonder who told you that.
His Twitter finally started working. He was able to refresh the timeline and he saw it.
And like, listen, I don't mean to pick on Kevin Weeks. Like, you know, it's everybody. It's all the insiders at large. They all do the same thing. It.
And then you have the people who pretend to be insiders who are aggregating other people's reports. That did make me laugh. I was very happy that Molly did that this morning to somebody who was quote tweeting somebody else's report like they were reporting it. And Molly was like, you don't report. You don't have sources. I appreciated Molly doing that because that's what I think to myself every day when I see people pretending that they have news.
Oh man, dude, can Woj change sports? I would do so many things.
Who was the guy on basketball Twitter like 8 years ago, like Ari Abraham or whatever? I'd take that guy over some of the guys that are reporting in the NHL. I would give me the NBA burner that's broken every transaction over the last 3 days before the insiders had it. I need to know whose kid that is. That's probably Daryl Morey's kid.
Oh man, I don't know, but like, yeah, dude, I just, you know, I want insiders that are actually insiders and that tweet things before the team gets the information first. Because, you know, like, honestly, the best insiders for the NHL are the people that run the Twitter. Because they gotta post the graphics, they gotta post the information, they gotta make sure that the copy's right and that there's no, you know, typos or anything like that. Like, they know all the. Honestly, if I was an insider, don't even talk. Like, GMs, great, coaches, great, players, great. I want in with 32 of the Twitter account holders. That's who I want insider info from. That's who I'm going to be friendly with because they know more than everybody else combined.
All right, I'm going to go get drunk now. Everybody have a good Saturday.